Welcome back to Garden by the Brook. It is the prime of the growing season right now in mid-late July. I just mowed. I'm feeling really inspired to show off the garden. Haven't quite got to the weed whacker part of things yet, so cut me some slack around the beds here. So yeah, let's get started. Whew. Okay, so here's this bed where you saw just last week we went and harvested almost everything out of it just to clear it out. You can see we still got some lingering suspects in here, but we have some beans planted as a successional crop. You can see some of these are starting to climb up pretty good. They're not quite taken off yet, but that's all right. Let's move over to the cucumbers. Woo! These guys, it's really hot out right now, so we're gonna water these guys in a bit. They're gonna wilt like this a little bit in heat like today. It's gotta be getting close to 90 already today. You can see they're doing well though. We got a bunch of different varieties. I'll throw them on the screen just to let you know what we're growing. If you wanna know which is which, go ahead and ask me in the comments. I'll let you know. Here's a nice Chicago pickler on its way in. Nice and fat. I say on its way in, but really I should be picking that right now. You see them turn yellow at all like that, you want to pick them to keep signaling to the plant that it should make more. Here's a nice variety. You can see it had a little bit of a dry spell apparently. We've been really reluctant to water because we've been having a lot of thunderstorms that are just dumping water, and it's making it difficult to tell how dry that soil is actually getting. All besides the point. Here's a favorite of ours called Lime Crisp. This is the best slicing cuke that we have ever grown right here. The seeds are starting to get expensive. This one's about ready to pick, but I tell you from experience, these stay really meaty and not a lot of seeds in the middle. Really nice cucumber. Whew. All right, just a nice shot of these picklers here, a pair of picklers. All right. Moving on to squash country in this bed behind us. If you're wondering, by the way, these peppers lingering in the middle between the beds here. I'm gonna weed whack this later. I moved them out of the way. They usually live over here where all these blank spaces are. So we're in a little bit of temporary disarray here. No worries though. It's Sunday and I got a lot of work to do out here today. Anyhow, back to the squash. This is a variety called Costado Romanesco. We've taken a couple off it already this year. You can see I've tried to rebury it as it roots at the nodes. I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a sec with this other Costado Romanesco. This one's got a big old squash on it. You can see it's kind of hiding beneath everything down there. Just to give you an idea, there's my hand on it. So this thing's about a little under a foot long right now. This is about the size I like to take them. Normally I would take squash before this, but this variety in particular just stays really, really tender for a long time. It doesn't get that bitter taste at all. So definitely understand why James Prigioni loves this plant. I'll toss a link to his channel. I probably shouldn't though, because you're not going to want to watch mine after you see all his awesome videos. He's got a cool garden, man. You got to check it out. We kind of model what we do here after what he does there a little bit. We got our own spins on things, but like the take-home points where perennials and like semi-permanence or something to be strived for, we really take that from James. Also the no-dig approach. Dude knows what he's doing. Can you guys see this little teeny root node here? I'll point to it. Oh. Try not to knock it off. Yeah, I know it's hard to see, but if you know what you're looking for, it's easy enough. Basically, you look for this where leaves are coming out on a mature squash. You can see there's one down here too, actually. You want to bury those, and basically, if you can manage to do that, not only is the plant going to continue to grow like crazy, but it's going to give some insurance against vine borer. Vine borer is this awful bug that just decimates squash plants, but if they're rooted in multiple places, they gain some flexibility with not only finishing the fruit they have on them, but continuing to produce. Definitely recommend burying your squash as soon as possible. All right, over in tomato land, things are a little slow. Word on the street, it's not a great year for tomatoes in New England, at least my neck of the woods. We're in zone 5. The heat's been okay, but the sunlight hasn't really been there. It's been suppressed because of all the wildfires, like on the good days, and there's been a lot of rain, actually. I think it's the 4th rainiest July on record, something like that. These are still doing well, though. We got green fruits on them, just waiting for something to turn. I think we got some sun golds that are starting to turn down here, little cherry tomatoes. We did actually take a few tomatoes off plants on our front porch, but they were a smaller variety. Here's another variety called Orange Peruche that we really enjoy. We think it tastes better than Sun Gold personally, but maybe it's our soil because, man, have we seen a lot of videos out there touting Sun Gold. So it definitely doesn't taste bad. It's definitely better than red tomatoes in general, but oh, that's why. That's where this one went. Look, it fell. Super ripe. I was gonna say, I thought we had one that was ready to pick on the plant. It was so ripe it fell off. This thing's like glowing practically. That's a Sun Gold. We'll eat that later as a reward for making this video, maybe. Here's something I never really talk about. I just kind of walk by in all the videos. So the steward of our garden here is this dwarf mulberry tree. It will produce berries eventually that take a while to ripen. This is kind of just here for fun though. We didn't really expect it to get this big given that it died almost all the way back over the winter. So if you can believe it, these two leads in the middle, their entire height they've achieved. Last in line down here we have another starship squash. You can see there's a little one coming in here. That's what they look like. Zucchini colored scallop squash pretty much, but they're an early squash. They're really more of a zucchini though by flavor. Here you go. This is a Bedding's Green Tint. It's an old variety. Nice scallop squash. It's got like a nutty flavor. So these take a lot longer to come in, but once they do, they come in fierce. They give you a lot of fruits and they set multiple at a time usually. So I'm looking forward to that. See, some of these flowers are a bit of a bee party. Around the back side of the garden, kind of close to the edge of what we're able to maintain right now, is a grape that we dropped in. It's a nice little seedless going up this small temporary trellis. I think I'm going to build this guy one of those big garden obelisks. Maybe I'll make a video about that, or just, at least just show you the finished product once I do get it up. But all this growth is from this year. This was chewed back to nothing by, I'm guessing, bunnies, because we have a lot of them hanging around. This filth back here, if you're wondering, this is an old firewood spot that I was using. The new ones are back there, you can see. I gotta get all that flarf out of the way, but here, I'll show you real quick. I build them in these round stacks called something that I can't remember, some German name I'm pretty sure. This one's almost done, still putting a roof on it. Basically, you build them in these round stacks, and then you kind of build what you can for a shingled roof on top. Need more wood to finish my shingled roof for each of these. But yeah, this is a great way to stack wood if you don't have any racks or you wanna just, it's supposed to dry it fastest too. I don't know, can't really attest to that, but it looks good so far. Got a bunch of crabgrass attacking my beds constantly. Pulling it out all the time. I had mulch in here, but it actually all kind of disintegrated back into the soil because it was grass, so I'm gonna have to remulch this bed. This right here we saw at the beginning of the video. This is called borage. It's a really nice pollinator attractor, and it's the color blue that the camera probably isn't capturing. Oh, here's a visitor. Bees of all sorts really enjoy this stuff, and small pollinators too. I think we actually end up relying on a lot of the smaller pollinators in our garden, like, oh, where'd he go? Oh, I scared him away. But there was a little fly, those little hovery flies. This thing attracts tons of those. Also, keep a lookout if you grow borage, because in our experience, ants really like to farm aphids on it. It's not really a huge deal, but at the end of the day, you have more ants in your garden. And, you know, they bite. They can be jerks. Alright, I'll take you over to another squash plant here. This video is a little long today. I guess this is for those of you that have been here for a bit and want to see more about the property. So here's a squash plant we showed in earlier videos. It's given us tons and tons of these chiffon squash. A really nice buttery early variety. As it ages though, they start to go from this creamy yellow color to this yellow green that you see down here. That one looks like it got pollinated. Hopefully it comes in strong. This plant's done enough for us already, honestly, but it looks so strong still that I really have high hopes for it because this is a compact variety and it's one of the biggest squash plants I've grown in some time. Back here we have some smaller successional pumpkins that we dropped in. They should start, well, they are flowering now. They should start producing small pumpkins for us. Little Pumpkimon and Jack B. Little are the two varieties. They both produce like those little, $2 pumpkins that you see at farmers markets. Really nice decorations, and they're edible too. Another squash hiding in there called Starship. We've shown you some of those before. They kind of put off this funky looking squash. You know what? We shouldn't be talking about any of this because there's a pumpkin that I have to show you. There you go. The best pumpkins we've ever grown come out of compost piles. This one was no exception. So here, come with me for the whole walk, the whole length of this thing. It was never supposed to get this far, but things happen. I can't give you a variety name because this is a hybrid of two that we grew last year. I'm guessing one of them was Rouge, because it's got this funky coloration on this fruit coming in. You can see it's already bigger than my fist. And for zone 5 in still July, I would say that's pretty dang big for a pumpkin in general. You can see it's got this whole little microbiome underneath here, creating shade. The weeds are starting to go nuts underneath it as a result. We'll have to attend to that. But here we go, we're still going, still working our way down. Eventually, we'll get to the compost pile that it came from. I'm standing in the other two compost piles now, just trying to get to the base of this. Here you go. Here's where it all starts. This is the very last cubic foot of soil from a huge mature compost pile that I had made. And this pumpkin extends all the way up. It's practically on the lawn. Pretty ridiculous. It's at least 25 feet at this point. You can see some of the earlier leaves are starting to die back, so we'll see. Depending on how well it's rooted up this way, it could extend into the lawn very easily by the end of everything. Got another little pumpkin coming in on it too, so who knows? Maybe we'll let it keep all of them. Something that I do sometimes when I have a lot of pumpkins coming in is the smaller ones I'll take early and kind of eat them as a summer squash. If you haven't tried that, I definitely recommend trying it. They taste pretty good if you get them early enough. Whew. All right, that pumpkin makes me tired just looking at it. See, we got some tomatoes intercropped here. This is a bunch of irrigation that we have not had to install this year because it's been raining so much. Wanted to show you this watermelon here on the ground though. Watermelon is something that we grow with a grain of salt all the time. Not literally, salt would kill the plant. We don't expect them to do well. They just don't really have as long as they need around here. It's just how it goes. But we like to try, and sometimes we get melons. So there's a watermelon. I don't know what to show you next. I guess let's walk on down this way. I've been harvesting potatoes out of this bed. You can see the potatoes that are left in here are starting to die off. A sure sign that we need to take action and harvest them. I don't see any poking up out of the soil, which is good because that means they'd be getting green. But these are actually a purple potato variety, and maybe I think I have a picture hanging around I can show you of the last harvest. They've been pretty good to us. Here is a plant called amaranth. Pretty sure it's amaranth. This one's called elephant head because of the shape of the little flower head. So this will all turn to seed. This plant is phenomenal to have in the garden. Honestly, these self-seed for us. We don't plant them anymore. We just let certain ones live. These ones are intermingled with our failed onion crop. Onions don't tend to do well for us. We kind of keep refusing to buy onion starts because at that point we feel like we should just be buying onions. And so we start from much smaller onions, you know, or seed, and they just don't have enough time around here to do well, is what we're learning. Here's an overgrown pea bed. These are shelling peas that are on their way out. We're probably going to pull them all real soon. They've got some peas on them that they're finishing up, so we're kind of just letting that play out. Might let some of these, this one's a little too far gone, so I'll probably start leaving some of these on to go to seed. And then we'll have peas for next year, or for microgreens, because those are delicious as well. This right here is actually, if you're thinking it looks like Queen Anne's lace or a carrot or something, you would be right. This is actually coming from, and it's got a bean climbing up it. This is coming from a carrot that we let over winter, and it's been in our garden all year. We just find it funny. Obviously not trying to get the carrot from it or anything at this point, but we might try doing something with the seeds and seeing how that works out for us. You can see it's bringing in a lot of pollinators, so it's got its uses there as well. Things are a little wild in here right now. Over here we have a failed beet crop. Beets do not do well for us. We have not figured them out really yet. I don't know what it is. They're usually really, really tiny when we do get a beet. Oh, look at that. There's a beet. I'm actually going to take that because it's poking up out of the soil. So, not that big. And yeah, I would say that's been typical for us. Hopefully it'll taste good. All right, now I got to carry that around. Well, I guess we're getting toward the end here today. I'll show you over here. This is what I'll call a pioneer bed. You know, it's our first year just kind of dumping compost in this area, seeing how things do. These are a bunch of Russian banana potatoes that are flopping over, dying back, and just about ready to be taken. We took some earlier in the year. They're a little fingerling potatoes, so the yield's not that impressive, but they were delicious. So looking forward to these. I'll try to take some video of digging those up so you can see what they look like. Over here we got I'll just show you the one or two things that are doing well over here, because a lot of this stuff isn't. We transplanted it way too late. But this is a Waltham butternut squash right here that I keep reburying every node, hoping that it'll root and take off. It's doing pretty well. Cool thing about the butternuts is, you know, you can eat them when they're fairly small. You don't necessarily need to wait for that skin to harden for the storage aspect of them or anything like that. You can just eat them when they're done. But if you want them to store better, yeah, hopefully they'll get big. This guy, I don't have high hopes for, but it does have time if it gets its stuff together. So we'll see what happens. And lastly, we got a little Market More cucumber over here from a seed vault that we bought, I want to say like 8 years ago. So 8-year-old seed actually germinated. It's got all this trellis space if it can just manage to take off. These pumpkins back here were meant to be climbing. Oh, I should show you that one of these pumpkins, even though it's in a rough shape, does have a pumpkin on it. It's not huge, but it's something. This bed needs more compost, you know. We just didn't want to spend all that much this year. I am actually composting more than I ever have before though, so maybe that's how I'll end the video today. I'll show you my compost situation. Alright, hang in there just for a second. I already told you that that pumpkin is coming out of last year's compost pile. Last year's compost pile was the biggest one we've had and the hottest pile that I've had so far, but this year I'm trying to double my efforts. This is what I thought was going to be a massive pile, but it has just shrunk so much so quickly because it's been hotter than I've ever had it before, that now I've stopped adding to it. I've turned it and this is just settling and I'm waiting to use it. If I want, I can throw it through a screen before I do, but I probably won't because I don't mind having things that are actively decaying in my no-dig beds. Here is what looks like a grass pile, but it's really just a grass cap on a pile of alternating layers of grass, leaves, kitchen scraps. This is the new compost pile. So my new kitchen scraps, as this continues to shrink over and over and over again, I'll be adding layers of kitchen scraps, and I'll be taking grass that I stockpile nearby and intermingling that. And I've gone and inoculated it with this first pile for a couple layers. So hopefully it'll go quickly and give us some more compost. Cool, so if you like this video, toss us a like and consider subscribing to see more like this as we develop our 3-acre homestead. Peace.